Hello. Welcome to
Hi,
Vegan
Jan.
Minds Live. Hi, Allison. Thank you for being with us today.
Of course.
So, we have Allison here to talk about some sneaky ingredients that you find in your cosmetics, your everyday lotions, skincare. So, we definitely appreciate you being on and sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you.
So tell me, I know you have your own skincare products, you have candles, you do so many what we call Allison's goods. So I'm sure you have a lot of background in figuring out what ingredients you put into your items. So please share.
Sure. So I've been vegan just over 20 years. And like most people, they'll transition to a plant-based diet first and not really think about the whole lifestyle of the rest of your life. And often when I'm doing events, unless it's a vegan event, I will get questions like, why are you marketing your product as vegan? Or what's in these candles that's different than any other candle? Or even like I've had some people make the joke that, well, you're not going to eat a candle, so why does it matter if it's vegan? And so I had to explain that like there's a difference between eating plant-based and living a vegan lifestyle where it's everything from your clothing to everything that you purchase, everything that you make that's on, in, or around your body. So with it being Veganuary, or is it Veganuary? I can't get those
January,
right.
yes.
Veganuary, okay. I want to say Veganuary. Veganuary, a lot of people, again, might be confused about the difference between something that's plant-based, something that's vegan, something that's cruelty-free. And all of those words can really confuse and frustrate the consumer, especially somebody who's new to their vegan journey or new to a plant-based diet. So hopefully today can clear up some things and people can follow up with me if they have any questions. But when I was first shopping, I had, and I tried to find it, I think I might have parted with it. It was a little paperback book called Vegan Ingredients A to Z. I don't know if it's still in print, but that just shows you like, my age and like, how I consider myself an old vegan because I had to take that paperback book with me to the store, to the grocery store, or to a shop to pick out a lipstick or whatever, because I didn't have a smartphone. Now there's apps where you can just scan the barcode of a product and see if it is likely vegan, somewhat iffy because the app can't tell or the company's not super transparent with their ingredients, or if something is very easily vegan or very clearly vegan. So that's kind of the evolution of the technology. Now you walk around with a smartphone in your pocket, you can Google any ingredient that you're unsure about when you look at a label on something that you're buying in the store. So
Yeah,
that's the good progress.
and that definitely is progress. And I'm one of those fast shoppers, so I kind of just like to skim and see if it has a little vegan, certification on it, or if it has, cruelty free. I love just seeing those big words on there. And as you mentioned, when I first went vegan, I didn't realize someone had to mention something like, all the products that you put like your makeup on your skin,
Mhm.
it's being absorbed into your bloodstream. And for me, that
Yeah.
clicked. I was like, that's true. Everything that I'm putting on my skin, I'm not looking at the ingredients to see, but my body is absorbing it. And, I want to make sure it's as clean as possible.
Right. Or even if, you don't want to eat anything that's animal based, if you're putting on a chapstick, you're kind of eating it a little bit as it's on your mouth. So it gets to the point where if you're not comfortable with that being on your body, well, then that's where you start to draw the line. I will say everybody's different and everyone's entitled to how they want to define things, but we'll just talk about kind of some of the industry standards and what companies can and can't do, what they do and what they shouldn't do, in my opinion, things like that. So everything that I produce is vegan, and I make that very clear on the packaging because, like you said, it's nice to just be able to grab something and not have to think too hard, especially if you're running through a big box store. And what's nice is now a lot more companies, even if they aren't vegan owned, even if they're not particularly like politically vegan or ethically vegan, they started to label products because of consumer demand. And that's all our doing, right? As people, part of the movement is to go vegan for the animals means that we also don't want to contribute to the use of any animal byproduct. So you'll see things marked vegan on a package and on a label now that was not so common. And a lot of companies are transitioning to completely vegan ingredients as well in the cosmetics world, in skincare and things like that. So that's getting easier. But there's some companies that have some vegan products, but not their whole line is vegan. And then there's some products or some companies that all of their product line is vegan. So it's a little bit tricky, and that's what's tough. Like, you know, if you go into a big makeup shop like Sephora, things are now starting to be labeled. Whereas before, with some of the brands that I used to purchase from, some of their items were and some of them weren't. And with the certifications and everything, I wanted to kind of explain to some people, because anybody can put like that this is vegan on the packaging, right? When they're selling a product, they can say that it's vegan. But if you read the ingredients and you in your research say, okay, there's nothing in here that's an animal byproduct, so I'm going to purchase this, that's fine. It could still be vegan, even if that company doesn't have the time, energy, or, you know, really doesn't want to put vegan on the packaging for whatever reason. But there's also like vegan.org is the one who owns the heart symbol with the V inside that says certified vegan, vegan.org on it. And that is a license. The company, like my company, for example, would need to go through a registration process with vegan.org to purchase the rights to put that on their packaging. You can't just download it off of Google Images and slap it onto your graphic design. And you have to present all of your suppliers and certify everything. And again, I started it, but it's a cumbersome process. Same thing for Leaping Bunny. Leaping Bunny just certifies that something has not been tested on animals, that the ingredients haven't been tested on animals, and that the company producing the final product hasn't either. And again, there's a lot of legwork that goes into that. I've done that one. And they didn't charge me anything, but they will have you pay to use the little bunny with the stars and the swirl around it. So smaller companies like mine, it's really cumbersome to go through that whole process and then to pay those things. So if you're shopping at a very small brand or an Etsy seller or something like that, they may not have the time and money to invest in those. And then some of these larger companies, they might have so many products and such a big company that they don't want to spend the time and the money having a person go through that whole vetting process of all of their suppliers, especially now with COVID, with supplies shifting daily and all of us trying to get all of our ingredients. So just because you see those or you don't see those on a brand, don't automatically exclude it. You can always email the company. You can always email whoever, you know, you can find on that packaging and just ask them if you have the time. Ask them if they know where those ingredients come from and whether they are or aren't vegan. And generally, they're pretty helpful as consumer demand has gone up for vegan products.
No, that's very important. Thank you so much for sharing that, because as a consumer, you don't really think about the back end and how the business functions is, and you just automatically assume it's just very easy to put it on there. And why don't you just put, you know, vegan, cruelty free? But I never knew that there was a process, and that might be deferring some of the businesses. So that is important. And that will take me, if I'm already reading the ingredients, I'm already very interested in purchasing that product. So doing that little extra step on my end is something I would probably do.
Yeah, and it's confusing too, because now a lot of people are using plant-based interchangeably with vegan, but some companies aren't really on the same page as we are, and actually accidentally purchased products that say plant-based that have animal ingredients. I don't know why. It's really funny that like they would do that, but then you still have to read the ingredients. That's kind of frustrating as a consumer to be confused by the verbiage. Yeah.
Well, now tell me, what are some of the ingredients that if I was skimming through, looking at the back of a package, that may be overlooked as, you know, this is actually the animal byproduct?
Mm-hmm. So there are some like black and white ingredients, and then there's some that are a little bit in the gray area. So we'll talk about kind of the black and white ingredients. One of the biggest one in cosmetics is anything that comes from a bee. There's a lot of honey and beeswax, but there's also, and there can be some confusion because of the way that ingredients can be described. There's a little bit of standardization, but you might see a word like royal jelly. That's also a bee sorry, just my brain broke for a second, a bee derived ingredient. So just be on the lookout for that. And again, some of these products have a lot of ingredients, and the font is going to be very, very small, and it'll look like there's like 50 ingredients in there, and sometimes they'll sneak in there. One of the biggest ingredients in lotions and skincare products is lanolin, and it's a derivative of wool. And basically, if you think of, and this is going to gross people out, and maybe that's a good thing, the oil that comes out of your scalp, produced by your skin, think of that on a sheep. That's where they get the lanolin. So when wool is removed or they brush it out of the skin, yeah. So that's why it's like very moisturizing for human skin, because it is a mammal and that's the oil that their skin naturally produces. So basically what you're doing is you're taking a shower, you're stripping away all the oils from your skin, and then you're putting another animal's oil back into your skin. Again, that yucks me out quite
Yes,
a bit. Most of the animal ingredients yuck me out a lot. But I don't want to just like, gross people out.
no, but it's true. You
With
have
this
to
whole
think
list,
of it that
but it's
way.
true. Yeah. So, um, I make soap, like we mentioned, and I'm in a lot of soap making groups. And I got into an argument once with a fellow soap maker who was using lard to make soap, right? So we know like animal lard, it's the rendered animal fat, and never personally tried it obviously in soap making, but the people that especially that like to make natural products consider it natural. It makes a really good bar of soap. Okay, so that's why it's in soap. Instead I use like olive oil and coconut oil. But this person was saying that, and they're again small company like me, just probably a single person producing it, selling it at farmers markets, etc., and said that I don't like putting the word lard on my label. Is there a way that I could label it so it doesn't sound so gross? And my comment was, if it sounds gross and it is gross, don't use it. If it grosses you out to say or to have to put it into print. So somebody else suggested, well, there's another word for lard, which is tallow. So you'll see that on a lot of soap products and a lot of skincare and cosmetic products. But then the frustrating thing with regulations and labeling is you can put, like I could put olive oil, organic olive oil as one of my ingredients, and lye, which is what turns it into soap. Or I could say sodium olivate, which is what happens when the two ingredients mix. So what this person was saying, this other commenter who's not vegan, said you can put sodium tallowate on your label. That is legal and regulated and fine. Instead of saying lard or tallow, you could say sodium tallowate. And I said, that's really confusing. If you're trying to obfuscate somebody who's grossed out by that you're putting lard in your soap, you're trying to trick them into thinking like it's something innocuous, that's misleading. And the person said, well, if somebody's vegan, they should know. I'm like, not everybody knows. And again, they're being purposely a little bit shady about that. And that's what
Yeah.
gets me, is like the way that some ingredients can be listed multiple ways. And then again, that puts a lot of burden on you as the consumer to have to look things up or Google it and know that that ingredient can be listed 5 different ways. It's very frustrating,
That is
especially,
frustrating.
for a newbie.
Yeah, and I
Yeah. And
wouldn't
then,
have even thought that, it could be listed a different way because of, the combination or my gosh, I'm
yeah,
learning so much. But you need to
yeah.
have
Wow.
transparency. And it's sad whenever business
Mhm,
owners are not trying to be transparent, but they're just trying to sell for
mhm,
profit. So
mhm. Yeah. Or like, if it grosses them out, then maybe they shouldn't be using it. That's just my thing. Um, yeah, a lot of things too, with makeup, and this happens in food too, is if you're allowed to just label something as a natural colorant or a natural flavor, that can
yes.
go either way. That kind of leads us into the gray area of sometimes it's a plant, sometimes it's an animal. So things like Carmine, which a lot of us know, like it's a red color, it's from crushed beetles.
Yes.
And it is a bright red, like redder than red pigment. So it's been used in makeup for like literally millennia, right? So like, the agents used to like grind it up and mix it with tallow, again, ick. And that was the first lipstick. So now we can reproduce these nature identical artificial colors, but then sometimes more natural brands won't want that label to say anything artificial. So they'll want to use something natural. And this happens in food too, like red candies will have natural coloring in it. So that's where it gets tricky, is where they don't actually have to say what the ingredient is. They can just say if it's a natural flavor or artificial or colorant and things like that. So when it comes to makeup, it is a little bit safer just to stick with a brand that will be entirely vegan, start to finish, or will label on their website or somewhere on the packaging that that makeup is vegan. And there are a lot more brands than there used to be, especially in the more affordable, like in the drugstore brands. Yeah.
Definitely.
So
Wow. Those are some ingredients that you don't think about. And then it makes sense whenever you look at the coloring that how do they get that color? So
mhm. Yeah, a few other things that are kind of in the gray area. Again, these are, if the package isn't labeled, you're going to have to email the company or email the customer service or the store, or hopefully go somewhere where the staff has been trained to know what's vegan and what's not. Is glycerin. You're going to find that in almost every lotion that's on the market because it is moisturizing along with water. So like water is kind of the carrier. Glycerin is a byproduct of soap making. So when I mix oil and lye and water, it makes natural glycerin that is then taken out of that process and put into lotion. So any liquid lotion that you find going to have glycerin added to it. And it's also like, it's just a really thick, viscous, and kind of a sticky fluid. So it's going to stay on your skin, which is why it feels so nice when you put it in a lotion, because it'll moisturize your skin and stay there and not feel greasy the way that, like, if you just put straight coconut oil on your skin, sometimes it's a little too greasy. But again, that's one that, unless it says on the packaging if it's vegan or not, glycerin could be from a tallow or a lard-based oil, or it could be from a vegetable base. So those are the like really frustrating gray areas. Same thing with, I've seen lately, and this is something that was never vegan, is collagen. There's
yes.
companies out there making skincare now, and it says plant-based or vegan collagen, whereas before that was only an extract from
Yes.
animal byproducts and oils and skin and things like that. So again, those are confusing to me as a consumer who for so many years saw things like collagen or peptides and all of those things and knew that they came from animal byproducts. And now we're able to, I don't know what kind of plant they're getting them from. I think sea kelp and things like that. It's just some like awesome discoveries about what can be used from plants to put into skincare products.
And I think that's the important part, is that there's so many new revelations, substitutions that are being created, and we're just moving in that direction that having animal byproducts should be something in the past by now. And hopefully
Mhm.
soon all businesses realize that and make that shift, because not just it being safe for the environment, but it's also safe for yourself. It's safe for moving this veg economy forward. We don't need to be
Mhm.
harming animals because there's so many different options available.
Yes, I agree. Well, you've sold me, Gia, but you know.
Well, thank you so much for sharing those. Was there any other items that we should be aware about as a consumer?
I think that was all of my notes. Good.
Perfect. Okay. Yes. Well, Allison, you have definitely told me so much more than I had ever known. And I now, as a consumer, am going to be a little bit more um, specific about what I'm looking at on the back of the boxes. And if it doesn't say vegan, I'm still going to research it to see if it is,
Mhm.
because now I
Mhm.
understand that it does take a lot. And for those
Mhm.
businesses that do it, I totally appreciate them doing that extra
Mhm.
step. And I hope that they do, in return, get those additional profits to offset those costs
Mhm.
that businesses have to go through for that. And Alice,
Mhm.
and I want to make sure I let everyone know that besides finding you on the Be Kind app, they can find you
Mhm.
at allisonsgoods.com.
Mhm.
And I want to thank you so much for taking your time to share with us all this pertinent information. You guys can subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and follow us for more tips on all of the vegan businesses that we have on Be Kind.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.